Game 3, the rubber match. Counterlogic Gaming versus Splyce here. This one for all the marbles, and frankly, Taco, I mean, I don't know where we're going. If you asked me earlier, right, this is Splyce is notorious for getting the one-game win. This team, I think, can and could take game number 3.
I think what's concerning here is that Game 3 territory is all Splyce, if you ask me. I mean, these guys were the kings of Game 3 sets when it came to the spring split. So now to see whether or not they're going to actually have the results they couldn't find in the spring, and that they're looking to try and close out this best-of-3 set in the summer. What's
fun for me is sometimes occasionally we lean on, I'll say cliches, but they're cliches for a reason, right? It all comes down to the draft. I think that's completely false here, right? I thought CLG flat out had the better draft in game number 2, but Splyce were the better players on the battlefield. As long as we don't see an RDO jungle or something completely crazy like that, I don't think this comes down to the draft. I think it comes down to the play on the battlefield.
I think drafts can play, like, drafts are probably 70% of a match. I honestly fully believe that the drafts can usually predetermine who's going to probably come out on top, and I only say that because you can typically tell based off of execution which is going to be less forgiving, and sometimes teams just go for those heavy execution compositions where you're like, okay, if they make sure to pull everything off with their coordinated chains, then you're going to be in the clear. But the second that you miss is where you're in a lot of trouble. And I think that Splyce, they constantly flirt with that line of disaster where, are we going to be a hit or miss team? And I think the consistency has been the key thing here, and that in this current split, they have certainly felt to be a lot more consistent than before.
Certainly something that Splyce are aiming for. First half of the draft done. CLG going Terra, Hercules, and Thoth. Really big choices in those last two. Hercules for fineokay and Thoth for Hurriwind have been near unstoppable in Season 5. Across the way, Xbalanque, Achilles, and Discordia are the first half for Splyce. And again, Achilles looked fantastic in the jungle in the hands of Cyno. I'm never going to say no to Xbalanque. I am happy with both sides so far. Bans coming out. No Rat, no Cirquette, no Odin. And CLG looking for one more.
CLG have just been taking shots at Cyno all day long, though. That's been the big thing here, is they do not want to allow Cyno to try and feel comfortable with any of his god choices, which is why I think we see Splyce putting the Achilles in their top 3 just in case. The big thing here to me, though, is that this Achilles, I'm not sold on it being specifically for Cyno. I have a feeling this could potentially be for Divios.
Yeah, there's a lot of flex there on this team. I could see Achilles realistically in 3 different positions here, right? So right now with Discordia, perhaps only 2, and with Kumba, perhaps only 2. Nemesis, the jungler of choice for CLG. You don't get a choice. That voice line is too much for me. AMC returns in game 3. And we'll see if Snoopy can turn somebody into the Walking Dead here with the B-Man. Thoth, Herc, AMC, loving this. And the Xing Qian, I think, is a oh, wow. Wow. I mean, I'm going to gush about the Splyce draft, so why don't you start here, Taco?
I think that the Splyce draft has so much heavy crowd control that it's going to be very difficult for CLG to maneuver around it. Nemesis, notorious for being the tank killer, might not have as much freedom to do so, because as strong as her ultimate might be against the Kumakarna, Xing Qian, and Achilles, there's also still the primary concern of how does she get close to them without getting trapped first.
Ton of crowd control, and specifically a ton of attention paid to the basic attacks. You've got a Hunter who we've had some discourse. I think of him using Cobb as a basic attack character. There is a lot of ability-based stuff in there, hence Snoopy's build, and I think he's kind of more in the middle than most of the other characters, but he does make use of heavy attack speed. Nemesis also is a character that can do that as well. Xing Qian and Kumakarna look right against that. Taco, rubber match. Last time I said I wasn't going to force you. This time, pick a winner.
Splyce.
Taco says Splyce. We'll see if this one has just as much
spice. I put it in the
spice.
Esports Weekly.
All right, there you go. She has to say Splyce. I'm not answering. Game 3, right now.
Game 3 about to be underway between CLG and Splyce. And quite the draft here from Splyce. They got the Xing Chen over there on their side. They got a lot of some spicy picks they've done here today.
I like the adaptations they made. They realized that Jigz was getting really focused as the Sylvanas.
Yeah.
So they first pick his Terra, and then the second adjustment they made was picking the Hercules before the secondary ban phase. As Splyce was consistently banning that away from the mid laner. It makes it a lot of an easier matchup. fineokay is so scary on this Hercules.
But it is looking like it might be Cyno again on that Achilles. Is he going to be able to get up to that same great start? We're about to find out here in just a moment. And who do you think is going to win there in Mixer Chat? Vote for us now. I think it's up there at the top of the chat. You just pick the thing you think and then click on it. And then we know about it for some reason. I don't know.
You press the buttons and do the things, and then they kind of tell you what you did.
Yeah, we let you know what you did. I'm sure you'll know.
And you'll see if
already.
you're wrong or right at the end of the game.
We're ready to move, though, into Game 3, the decider match. And again, I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, man. Splyce have been looking great in this summer split. They've been together, playing together, getting that camaraderie together, their synergy on point, and it's been showing for them. They're right up there near the top. They beat Space Station. If they get this game, they're tied with the United Space Station for #1.
That's very true. And Splyce, they changed up their strategy in game number 2 and 3. They're no longer really invading the enemy speed buff, trying to do any shenanigans stuff like that. So CLG can breathe a little easier knowing that Nemesis on Homiefe is going to just get the farm that he needs early game, and Hurriwind can make whatever 1v1 plays he wants.
It is going to be Cyno coming over to the blue side. Same from Homie. No early attention going to be paid to these duo lanes, it looks like. But Hurriwind back on the Thoth pick he looked so great on in game 1.
This is going to hurt Divios a little bit because he didn't share the blue buff experience, and as a result, hitting level 2 first was fineokay. There could be a level 5 play later down the road if fineokay can find it.
Cyno is lurking in the jungle. Homie right there with him. They gotta be careful. We could certainly see a duel in that middle lane. Cyno now makes a rotation over Homie right here. He blinks past him, though. His target's Hurry, who does have the evade and punish, but he still has the dash, so Cyno closes the gap. Turns back towards Homie, who still has the dash available. They're all able to escape.
And the positioning now of Splyce allows them to clear the mid wave first. They zone and bully CLG away, so trying to make something happen off of it. They could look for those left side or even right neutral mid harpies.
Snoopy back on the Muzen Cobb, and CycloneSpin and Aror having a good time punishing him. No real way to get away from this Kumbhakarna control, though, so that is going to just be free poke on the side of Splyce as Jigz goes aggressive and can't find the wall.
And I like this composition from CLG with the AMC and the Terra.
Wow.
You need some sort of protection for your Muzen Cobb that doesn't have any gap closers. So what do? You can find the root, the stun, or even swing the tides. You know, have the enemies deal less damage, increase your own AMC's damage, and more importantly, Snoopy's still doing his Mage Blessing start, which means that we're probably going to see another Soul Leader soon.
We saw it work for him well in game 1. See if he can, or last time he played the Muzen Cobb, rather, see if he can replicate that same magic here in game 3, where they've now kind of established some lane pressure for themselves. The Muzen Cobb clears the wave quite well once he gets a few abilities online. In fact, Aror in a whole heap of trouble. Say goodbye to all your health.
That spreads the bees right to CycloneSpin. Aror trying to dash away from even more basic attacks. And Snoopy feeling so confident with the Muzen Cobb in the last pick that he picks it into the Kumbhakarna. Someone that has great lockdown potential between the root, the Mesmerize, which also, if you cancel out, by the way, it reduces your attack speed heavily, and then that epic uppercut, which sets up TheBest for a lot of damage waiting on the ground.
And it's not as easy for Snoopy to get away from Aror as it is for a lot of other hunters, right? As you highlighted, none of that mobility, so he certainly could get punished. But as you said, Snoopy clearly has a plan, has the beats, has the sprint coming out from Jigz. They've got some tools to try and get him away.
I mean, he has a lot of mobility once he gets his hives maxed out, once he gets the Talaria boots, if he goes for that one more time. But he doesn't have the dashes or the gap closers compared to other hunters to use that for a quick burst of a displacement to avoid certain abilities or whatnot.
Divios is, to take a look at the soul lane, he's way ahead in the Warrior's Blessing stacks. 9-5 for the Xing Chen over fineokay. The Hercules, probably just a little bit easier for him to get that poke off and hit the wave.
The thing is, the way Divios is playing it, you're using the Furious Roar onto the Hercules and the wave, whereas Hercules is easily just setting up the pull-push combination, and Divios is playing around that. Obviously, he's not going to line up for either of those two abilities, where fineokay has to stay still during the pull for a split moment, giving Divios a crazy good opportunity to hit at least 3 melee minions and the Hercules, if not the whole wave.
And Divios holds on to the teleport there, totally. He's walking back to lane, has it available to him. And that's an advantage he has over fineokay. fineokay went with the meditation, kind of doubling down on that sustain. So it could have been a chance for him to, close the gap on him as Aror takes big damage in the dual lane, has to use sprint to disengage.
Aror cannot handle the bleeding without the physical protection. This is what makes AMC so valuable. Yes, he has a lot of damage over time, but it makes it even better when you don't have the immunity. If that was against Warriors of Blessing sort of target, you have the damage reduction to negate a lot of that potential, but against the Guardian's Blessing, Aror feeling it, even going for Talaria's shoes, surprisingly enough, instead of the reinforced. Normally, when you're against damage over time, such as the Terror Root, such as, AMC, not a bad idea to switch things up.
He wants to try and get around the map as fast as possible, as Cyno is about to have some company. Does drop the blue buff. Homie's here in the jungle.
Got spotted.
They recognize that he's here, so they are going to be able to defend their camps. Homie's just going to split this wave with fineokay, which Cyno elected not to do.
Walks over the ward and great adaptation. Divios did not commit onto his own blue buff quite yet until he knows it's clear as a summer's day where there's no cloud in the sky.
This feels a little bit like a game 3, though, doesn't it? None of the repeated buff invades coming out. None of the aggression in the mid lane. These teams both know that a lot is on the line here with this set, so they're playing a little bit more cautiously.
I mean, I think in game number 1, it was 10-5 around the 15-minute mark.
So fast.
And just so much blood being spilled on the battleground of the gods. But game number 3, where the best of 3 essentially turning into a best of 1 after splitting it in the previous games, they wanted to slow things down and look for concrete plays, making sure that they don't give anything back in return, both of these teams.
But I gotta think, though, we saw how well Splyce able to play when the Achilles got to a quick start. That's what Splyce wants to have happen again. CLG are comfortable waiting, but the blink into the darkest night, into the stun, force the beads early. Cyno doesn't even need the execute, and Homie had no way to make it to the fight because Aror zoned him. First blood goes over to Splyce.
Keep in mind, this is what happened towards the end of the first game, where AMC was the primary target, but that was when already CLG was super ahead. Aror gonna get knocked down, but can he get back up again?
They do have the auto attacks coming in, but TheBest comes in to block them. Can't block all of them, though, and Hurriwind is able to eventually find the kill, and now Best falls. Double kill for Hurriwind in the mid lane.
TheBest trying to answer back in kind, but he just couldn't get in there. Jigz using the root just in time. Cyno gonna get stunned out for even more damage. This is only level 7th off, guys.
And it's just gonna get worse. Has the red buff around his waist. Hurriwind, man, when he's feeling it, it's tough to slow this guy down. They did a great job of it in game 2, did Splyce, but that's because they put a lot of pressure on that mid lane. Best and Cyno repeatedly were getting kills on him or forcing him back to base. That's not been the case this time. Hurriwind has felt no pressure. Hurriwind has been freely farming, and he's ready when a lone Aror walks into his lane to try and get that kill paired up with Jigz.
And the thing is, Splyce, in the first game, the second game I think it was, where Cyno goes for the beads as opposed to the blink. In game number 3, he realizes he has to abuse this AMC, so he goes for the blink whenever he can look for these rotations in the side lanes, and Snoopy needs a little bit of babysitting to get out of this laning phase, or at least some of these offensive wards to spot Cyno from a distance.
Now that is going to help. Looks like Cyno was able to come down and strip away that red buff totally and then come back and defend the row. Actually splitting that one quite a few ways between Cyno, Best, and Aror. But they are the ones that control both the buffs now. They have the timers. Splyce can come look for that again if they want to next time.
Definitely could be the case. Both purple buffs going to their respective owners. CLG and Splyce so evenly matched in this game number 3, just looking for any tiny holes to poke through. And I got to look at the battle of the supports between this one. It's going to be between Jigz and Aror. Terra versus the Kumba Karna. They both have great control aspects and abilities, but it all comes down to the ultimates. Can Aror use his ultimate in a timely way that Splyce can follow up in time? Or is it going to be CLG's Terra just using that Earth and Fury?
Aror in a whole heap of trouble. Already had the sleepy time passive procced, so he's not even going to have that to help him out. He falls to the big burst from Snoopy. CycloneSpin can only watch as he falls.
Just like I said, these two supports are going to go back at it time in and time out. And the cripple from the Stinger from Snoopy makes that battle even easier.
And remember, Aror elected to go with the extra movement speed as the idea instead of any extra protection on his boots path. The fineokay gets double striked, executes there, but he misses. I think because of the stun. Now Cyno is in a whole heap of trouble. Homie comes in and finds the kill. A nightmare situation for Splyce. What should have been 2 quick kills instead is Cyno falling.
Wow, the stun. There's very few instances where you actually want to continue to move just for a fraction of a margin inch. And that was one of them.
And there's, I mean, that's not a miscommunication. That's not even a mistake, really. It's just one of those things that happens sometimes, Totally. And Cyno not able to find the execute, and it's troublesome because this is such an important time where Cyno had a chance to get a kill and start getting himself ahead. Instead, now Homie is a little bit ahead of him in experience, just a tiny bit out in front. And now this Nemesis can feel a little bit more free to move around the map.
Definitely going to feel that way, especially after getting her own speed buff. Finishing off Yonin's Wrath more than likely at this point. Could be the Crusher, the same way Cyno elected to go, but that extra cooldown reduction, which it will be, allows the Nemesis to continue looking for those ganks, maybe forcing early sprints or early purification beats. But actually, TheBest and CycloneSpin electing for Aegis's. There is no purification for Splyce.
Sorry, Totally. I'm still back on that play. That hurts to watch. Such a big opportunity for Splyce ends up going down the drain. But you're pointing out that there's none of those purifications there available for Splyce. They could certainly end up being targets. They don't have a ton of CC immunity available to them. TheBest certainly does, but CycloneSpin could get potentially caught out if he's not careful as Homie comes down to grab these back.
And against Jigz that's playing the Terra, you're asking for a bad time when you're doing a purification beads.
Yeah.
One root, and then all of a sudden Hurriwind's hitting his stun, and then the hieroglyphic assault. There could be a lot of continuation damage.
And this is something that I think we see a lot when it's Nemesis in the jungle, because you don't necessarily need the beads as much. The sprint will usually get you away from a lot of what she does because she's so reliant on those slows. The problem is Hurriwind and Jigz both have plenty of control in their own right. The evade and punish we've seen set up plenty of kills as Divios forces fineokay back. No real kill potential here, but we'll see if that ends up coming out to haunt them as they've elected for the Aegis's instead.
Homiefe versus Cyno. Stun coming out from Hurriwind, not on the mark, but it does just clear out the right side mid Harpies. It's always a small game of battle of inches, and those mid camps so valuable to fight over. The team that wins that usually has a better edge, as fineokay actually in a weird spot inside the enemy blue cove.
Uses the boulder to avoid getting picked up by the Whirlwind of Rage and steal the big-time heal. Sends fineokay right back up to full. Epic uppercut already on cooldown. Divios, or rather Cyno, cannot find the stun. Final Judgment hits both. Divios is stunned out. Hurriwind's here for more damage. Root from Aror comes through, but that's a Hercules, and I don't think that's really the one you're trying to look for, as her Aror has to back off.
Definitely going to be a good amount of tower siege potential if they wanted to, but respecting the teleport. Great counter rotation from Snoopy, taking advantage of that, but exposing his own red buff. CycloneSpin snatching that one away.
And was able to push a wave up to the tower of Snoopy as well to try and strip him of a little bit more farm. So yes, Snoopy comes in, grabs that mid, but Cyclone does make him pay on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, Splyce can't find a way to punish the aggression from CLG, who aggress into their jungle looking for the blue buff steal. fineokay fully entrenched in the blue buff and still able to walk back out.
I mean, with a 2,000 gold lead, this level 12 Hercules is looking for any sort of play that he can get. He doesn't have to worry about Divios in the 1v1 once the Genji's guard has been completed for fineokay. He has to be more worried against Cyno, but that heal being maxed out already at level 13 gave him so much more freedom to continue the action at the second part of that team fight that Splyce just wanted to disengage at that point. They're like, oh no, he's already healed. He's a Hercules.
It was that looked like the fight hadn't even happened yet. It looked like fineokay was like just showing up at the party, like, hey, let's go, instead of he'd already been there partying all night. He was clearly ready to continue that fight on, but Splyce wanted nothing to do with it. And now it's CLG who started off looking good early on in the game. Up 4-1 in the kills here, 13 minutes on. We just saw their lead. Can Splyce respond to it? They've got the tools to do it here early, but so far it's been all CLG.
And that was a well-earned kill that Splyce did in the left side of the lane. I'm surprised they haven't tried to go for it again, but it's also because of the defensive vision. Cyno
gets deleted. So thank you for coming, and we will see you later as fineokay is able to get that last hit necessary to just delete the Achilles from the jungle. Now 1-2-0. CLG have done a great job keeping Cyno down, letting him pick the Achilles again and not letting it have any impact.
And the thing was, it's not about how they shut down Cyno, but it's how they prevent him from getting any sort of lead and an advantage. The way that Cyno was able to just kind of casually walk up to everybody from CLG in game number 2 was unwarranted. Should never have happened. That early first blood from Hurriwind was definitely felt as a result, because Homiefe slowly started to trickle down. Too many late game gods from CLG side in game 2, switching things up to this Nemesis, to this Hercules. They're adapting to the early game Achilles very well.
Looks like Pyromancer does go down the way of CLG. They just continually able to grab things off the map. Gold Fury still stands, though. No one's turned an eye towards that one just yet here, totally. But CLG certainly have a claim to it. At this point, with the lead they've earned for themselves, they can try and force Splyce into a bad fight, but you've been talking about how they've been able to keep Cyno down, or at the very least not let him get off to the same rocket start that he's able to in game 2. Well, it's kind of been everyone on CLG doing their part here. No one in particular has popped off. They're just all playing well as a unit.
I'm still a little surprised that we're not seeing a winged blade out of Cyno in the 3rd item slot. He does a decent amount of damage with just Warrior Tabi and the Crusher. He can set up for his teammates with a stun and trying to get his people into execute range, but he needs more mobility to also prevent the slows from fineokay and even Snoopy in the honey department.
Does have the beads now, as does CycloneSpin. Looks like that's what they wanted to go with those 2nd relics, so they'll have that CC immunity available to them now. You talked about trying to get away from some of those slows. Looks like they're a little bit more concerned with some of this healing, or at least Divios is. Cursed Ankh already picked up to try and deal with fineokay. And even some of the healing Jigz can do during a team fight, too. I mean, we saw that big burst heal from fineokay on the blue buff. Can't keep letting that happen.
There's a lot to be mentioned between these two supports, between, you know, the sustain versus the root crush combination. It's about the Stone of Binding versus Gauntlet of Thebes. Same idea in game number 1. Aror rushing this item, trying to make the team fights more impactful in the now, where Jigz is thinking more long-term.
And it makes sense, especially on the Kumbhakarna. He's going to be able to proc the Stone of Binding very, very easily. Almost everything he does is crowd control, and we'll be able to get that passive out as Gold Fury now being at least thought about by Splyce, try and force CLG to respond. They do have Jigz, Snoopy, and Homie all here. Now also making his appearance here is Hurriwind, and Aror too far forward yet again, gets blown up very quickly. Has to use the epic uppercut, just disengage. Final Judgment hits, and now Homie is right here to finish this kill off and disengage. Apple lands on him, and CycloneSpin jumps in, but they don't have enough damage.
Spread onto Snoopy for a little bit more. Aror barely able to get back up. fineokay doesn't have any sort of cooldowns to get away from that one. Looking for the pull, slightly off the mark. Snoopy and Hurriwind firing shots, but they can't land on the best.
Now, no one on Splyce falls, but they do have to send Aror back to base. They're not in the best standing right now, as fineokay is able to come over and provide the meditation for the team as well. But CLG don't look like they want to force the Gold Fury. In fact, fineokay wants to fight. CycloneSpin gets pinned, and Hurriwind's there with the damage. 2-man stun comes out, and they end up bringing out the Earth and Fury from Jigz. Now CLG are ready to hit the gas. Next target's going to be Divios.
The stun is good. Hurriwind with a hot double kill. Hurriwind dashing into the best, trying to get himself a triple, and he gets it.
Now they're looking for Aror. The slow is down, the honey's down. No sleepy time passes to save you this time, buddy. They even hit the stun. Final Judgment comes through, and Aror, I feel like there's just nowhere for him to go. That's going to be a delayed quadra for Hurriwind.
Trying to make it a penta, but Cyno a little too far away from the action. And CLG, they're not interested in the left side. Gold Fury, they want the Fire Giant on the right.
That's exactly where they're going to head. And that team fight, what an excellent play there from fineokay, who moves way far forward and starts getting the pulls back in. Hurriwind right there to follow up.
Not just with self-sustain, but team AoE sustain. The meditation coming in clutch for fineokay. Cyno blinking away from Homiefe, still 26 seconds for his own blink. Fire Giant rewarded after destroying that team fight.
Not too far behind the one Splyce themselves got in their very, very quick game, too. Well, a good bit behind. I think Splyce might have got that around 15 minutes, but still very early in its own right. Splyce want to grab a Gold Fury to respond to this. They should be able to secure it, but CLG now up a pretty significant amount of gold. It's going to change after this, but also up 7,300 experience, 4,000 gold, just about. Splyce have a hard time fighting into the Fire Giant buff.
It's the Terra. The Terra has made a big difference in these team fights. The root setting up so much poke damage from Hurriwind from a distance. Even fineokay making that rotation. You can just feel the presence between the Hercules that he had in this game versus the silly hell that he had in game number 2. And in game number 1, playing the Chang'e, which was very successful. And honestly, CycloneSpin should not have gotten pulled there. He had his beats, he used a little bit too late. After already getting stunned, he could have still used it mid-air to prevent the stun, and that excavate Hurriwind follow-up damage was just too much to handle.
Hurriwind was right there to immediately follow up, and CycloneSpin hesitated too long. Tier 1 tower comes down, strike from Best does land. Divios is now here to join in with the squad and at least push back CLG for now, who are retreating. And I don't think Cyno want to let them retreat for free, but he takes way too much poke. Homie rotates in on the backside with the blink, drops down the ult. Cyno has got to retreat.
Trying to make it happen onto the jungler. Cyno got slowed by the honey from Snoopy. He doesn't have any
Over
defense.
the wall.
Wow.
Hurriwind.
The stun. There was no bees for CycloneSpin. It was still on cooldown.
And that time he does end up falling yet again. 0-2-1 now for CycloneSpin. Hurriwind, on the other hand, 7-0-1, 11,000 player damage ahead of everyone else by a pretty significant margin. And Hurriwind is not done yet. Evade Punish does not land on the Jigz, but this Phoenix is already under siege. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel comes out. Final Judgment doesn't land, but CLG are not deterred.
Not done yet. Trying to go into that
Good
Phoenix,
push.
avoiding that epic uppercut. In the backline, Cyno gets Snoopy. Hurriwind trying to respond. He needs to find the stun. Hieroglyphic Assault not going to connect because of a beautifully timed blink.
So Cyno's out of there, but with another minion wave and with the meditation and 4 members, CLG are ready to continue pushing into left-hand Phoenix. Divios and CycloneSpin are back. Aror here too. CLG have got to rethink.
That's true. Without Snoopy, they don't really have the ability to melt that Phoenix as quickly as possible in a neutral 4-on-4 state. They respect the back after the respawn from CycloneSpin, and they have plenty of time to make this idea happen because they still have Fire Giant around their waist for another minute 20 seconds.
And plenty of tier 2 towers to go get to add to that gold lead, but Splyce showing a strong defense, and that time it was Cyno making a big difference. He made a point to dive past everything and look for Snoopy in that fight. 0-2-5 on the Amusin Cobb. He has been putting out pretty relevant damage. You see him right there in the middle of the pack, but he's also still a pretty easy target for Cyno.
That's very true, but if you're going to focus out Snoopy, you're not going to focus out Hurriwind, and I think that's the key thing, that Hurriwind is getting off more damage, honestly, than Snoopy will. Snoopy's just there to clean up, to be able to make sure that his team is the one to secure some of these towers or the Phoenixes, the people winning the team fights. Snoopy's the last member from CLG to actually win the team fights for this team.
Definitely feels like a big difference when they're allowing Hurriwind to play this Thoth pick. It just looks incredibly strong for him. But I mean, at a certain point, I mean, you can't ban everything from the man. Clearly, he can play the Giannis at an insane level too, and it just becomes a bit of a pick your poison type situation because Hurriwind clearly is just playing that well right now. They do take the tier 1 tower on the solo side of the map and still have Fire Giant for a few more seconds, but it's just about to fall off.
Honestly, like, yes, Hurriwind plays fantastically with these picks, but it's up to Jigz and fineokay to be the lifeline for Hurriwind. The Hercules Terra combination is allowing Hurriwind the kind of freedom that he's been having, being a part of 9 of these 11 kills, sitting at 7-0-2, top player damage of this game. MVP-esque performance.
It certainly is, but you're right to say there's plenty of setup for him, or not even just setup, but plenty of space being created by the rest of the squad. fineokay had a great play underneath the Phoenix just now, where he was able to get the pull push on 2 into the boulder and find a kill for himself. It actually kind of pushed him a little bit into Hurriwind's damage right at the tail end of it. It was a crazy combo that worked out. I don't know how intentional it was, but it certainly ended up working out for him. And Splyce have got to try and find some answers.
Fire Giant responding in 20 seconds. If they want to find answers, it has to be with the defense. They kept all their Phoenixes alive. They're only down about 7,000 gold at 22 minutes. It is pretty serious and scary to deal into, but they need to isolate somebody. Look at fineokay on the left side. If they all collapse onto him, they might have found the kill because the rest of CLG too far away. But not going to go for it.
Still, though, fleeing from the level 20 Hercules. I think he has the shield of regrowth even, so able to get some of that extra movement speed too. He's ready to rock. Is fineokay on this Hercules pick. Fire Giant is back among us, and fineokay is pretty deep in the jungle. Cyno is kind of on his own, trying to look for the loop around, but they're going to see where he is on those minions and certainly be ready to collapse.
Look at Cyno. It's going to be Homiefe chasing him down, but not wanting to commit too far deep. Fire Giant has respawned, so CLG can look at that very easily, forcing out the fatal strike from Cyno. Without that team fighting ultimate, this could be CLG's objective to secure.
But look where Best and Cyclone are. They're just going to push down dual lane, and if Divios and Aror can contest fire, I guess go for it, like slow them down some, but they really don't have much of an opportunity with just the 2. Aror gets stunned out. He's been brought very low already. Final Judgment's there. fineokay is there as well to bring him down into the passive. Divios has to walk away from his friend as Jigz gets the last hit, and they do get a tier 1 tower in return, but that's about it.
Homiefe spots CycloneSpin and TheBest. They're not interested in realistically defending this. They're buying time to allow the split push to happen. If Homiefe tries to defend the left, he's going to have to do it 1v2.
Well, that is going to be the call to try and go over there and defend against the tier 2 as Divios is going all in on trying to slow down this Fire Giant push, and CLG are ready to drop it and just look for the fight. Cyno has got to retreat. fineokay and Snoopy right here. The push for the stun. Snoopy can't quite land the shots, but there's the slow as Divios has to run away.
The pull was so good to allow Snoopy to find that kill. Hurriwind takes out Divios. It's only the best, and CycloneSpin on the left side that cannot continue the pressure. The rest of their teammates just crumbled, and Homiefe can still kind of chase that down and do a little bit of a pincer while fineokay comes from the north.
Now this is Splyce trying to get back what gold they can. They're not going to come towards the gold tree, but fineokay is here. He recognized that this is where they were going to be going, so he's coming over for the defense. Meanwhile, Aror trying to go stop the Fire Giant. CLG, though, were able to secure it. Aror could not get in there. fineokay going to continue to chase down the carries.
Oh, fineokay actually forced the beats from CycloneSpin with that driving strike, while Homiefe picks up the slack where Splyce left off, giving CLG their second Gold Fury of the, oh sorry, their first Gold Fury of the game, second Fire Giant of the game, going to CLG. fineokay just casually bouldering the minions.
Hey, just clearing it off. He'll be back. Got the breastplate of valor. He's good
Strength
to go.
training.
That's right. Yeah, just like, you know, throwing the old ball around. Maybe
getting his reps in at the gym.
That's all you got to do.
2 stacks for his high diversion. Recent changes.
He does more sets, less reps, I think.
That's true.
Yeah.
You got to be efficient with it.
That's right.
More reps, less sets.
More reps, less sets. Okay.
That's how you got to do it.
Okay. Yeah, that's what whatever Hercules does works, I'm sure. Yeah. Clearly.
But anyway, speaking of high diversion, 2 stacks on this item. Recent changes to this item, going from 10 stacks down to 7, but increasing in the protection department, going from 2 protection per stack to 3 is an essential buff, because at 7 stacks, you're getting that extra 21 protections anyway. So not only is it faster to stack, but you're getting that 1 extra protection, making it very enticing with the changes.
It's clearly working well for fineokay, who has not fallen yet this game. In fact, few have on the side of CLG. Snoopy holds the only 2 deaths, as he's done a great job baiting himself for the rest of the squad and putting CLG in a great spot every single time. There is the tier 2 tower in mid, the tier 2 tower in right, but I don't think CLG are that concerned with those. They are grouped up and postured around the Phoenix.
And honestly, if only Snoopy dies, that's fine.
Yes.
He knows what he got himself into once he picked the Moose and Cobb. The rest of Splyce needs to figure out a way to defend the left side, because Homiefe is not there. It could be a 5-on-4 on the left if they wanted to do it now.
He's chunking that mid tower, so it is going to fall. fineokay walks to the Phoenix left-hand side, but he wasn't ready yet. Divios gets chunked, gets rooted, and has to jump back. The apple comes through onto Jigz, who is happy to absorb that cooldown. Splyce has already used one of their better team-fighting ultimates, and CLG are just going to sustain it up.
The best without his ultimate, he's not going to be able to really cripple the necessary target. Homiefe, he got the tier 2 tower in the mid lane, and now he's going so far away from the team fight on the right. If Splyce doesn't take this team fight now, I don't know when they will.
No, Splyce not being able to take the 5v4, this is huge for CLG to grab these 2 towers, and they're happy to stall the rest of Splyce here. Eventually, someone's got to slow down Homie and not just let him take stuff off the map for free.
Look how patient CLG is. They don't even want to engage, obviously, 4-on-5. They're going to wait until Homiefe gets closer to the Phoenix. They want someone from Splyce to defend against Homiefe in the 1v1 and allow CLG a clean 4-on-4 on the left.
Well, again, asking the tough questions. It is going to be that 4-on-4. Best does get stunned out by Jigz, who also goes in for the root. Hurriwind charging the final judgment, lets it fly, doesn't quite hit CycloneSpin. They lose their big mage ultimate, but Sprint comes out. They're ready to go in for the aggression. Earth and Fury hits just nearly everyone. fineokay with the push into the boulders, and CycloneSpin reeling back, and Aror going to be the next target.
Oh, the Best goes in. His ultimate came back. 1v1. Cyno loses it against Homiefe. Best using his Aegis. Left side Phoenix getting pressure. Best gets taken out by fineokay. It's a 5-on-3.
CycloneSpin going to be the next target. He has to jump back to the fountain. Phoenix on left-hand side can be taken down by Snoopy, who's here. Divios couldn't get him with the Whirlwind of Rage, and still only 3 members standing. Stun comes out. Pull comes out. Push comes out into the stun again. CLG should be able to take down Aror as well.
So many forms of CC. CLG gets the left side Phoenix. Aror falls, being the 3rd victim from Splyce, as CLG is barreling down the Titan room.
It looks like they are going to be moving into the Titan room. CycloneSpin barely even able to sustain up inside his own fountain. Homie finally decides to come join the fray. They did most of that really without him. Final judgment ripped through. Titan cannot withstand the onslaught. CLG take down the surging Splyce 2-1.
18-2, 28 minutes into the game. CLG looking remarkable. After the changes they did in picks and bans between games 2 and 3, they first picked Terra, and they lock in Hercules for fineokay before the secondary ban phase. Both games 1 and 2, Splyce eliminated that possibility, but taking the opportunity in game number 3, I love the adaptations from CLG.
They both did a great job making adaptations throughout this set that I feel like, but it was just CLG who made them. And that third match, the one that ended up mattering the most here, and was able to grab that victory 2-1. They did a great job. You know, early pressure never really let Splyce get comfortable this game.
Unfortunately not. Splyce, they had such a great victory versus Space Station Gaming earlier this week, but losing against CLG. They need to go back to the drawing board, see what works, and see what doesn't. That RDO jungle, they have to be questioning that game.
That is, yeah, it kind of feels like that game was lost right from the beginning, right? It could be 1-1 going to a closer set, potentially, if they have that game back. But who's your MVP for this game? The one that led CLG to victory here, 2-1. And that's something they really need. They've kind of been struggling here in the top half of the summer split. Now a chance to go into the back half looking a lot better.
And week 4 is going to be the week 3 rematches, so given the opportunity to do a lot of homework and research and get another victory could put CLG in the position that they need to qualify to Masters.
And that's what everybody's trying to do right now, getting that top 2 positions so they can make it to that LAN event at the end of the split. But that's at least going to do it for this set. We're going to send it back to the desk so they can break it down.
Thank you very much, folks. Tom and Taco here, getting ready. Almost caught us. We were having such a conversation about this set. I mean, Splyce and CLG, Splyce comes so close. Taco, I really thought they were going to take third.
I really like the composition that Splyce had heading into this. I thought that they had the appropriate responses for the gods that CLG opted for, but something about Hurriwind on this Thoth and Homiefe on the Nemesis, man, you just can't get past it.
That's the thing, is that Hurriwind has just been overperforming like crazy, and he's becoming one of these just transcendent mid laners. He used to be a guy that had those games every now and then, and every now and then you would sit there and go, damn, wow, okay, thanks for reminding me, Tyler. But now Hurriwind's just doing that every time he goes out and gets the right guy in his hand. Most valuable player, Hurriwind. Incredible stuff on the Thoth in game number 3.
No real surprises either. I mean, from the player damage alone, you could tell that he was sitting well above the rest. 26,000 in total to close it out. That is outstanding, lights out kind of performance from Hurry.
And it's also the mechanical prowess as well. Thoth does a lot of damage, folks. Sorry, that's just how the character goes. But that first blood was so impressive, where he gets the kill onto Aror and the follow-up kill on the best.
Also the turnaround, though, that happened to Splyce near the mid lane. It was like right by those right mid harpies in the blue buff territory. And Splyce, it looked like it was 2 freebie kills. And then before you knew it, it was actually Cyno getting blown up. And there's something to be said about a Thoth having a strong early game start. You don't normally want to let it be risked, but sometimes you just can't avoid it. And in this case for Splyce, they were not able to prevent Hurriwind, and they couldn't match his range. I think that was the main issue that they seemed to encounter yet again, similar to game 1, is that they just couldn't get close. Hurriwind was just so well protected by everybody from CLG. As soon as he started off really well, they wanted to make sure to keep everything going.
Yeah, that was the scary thing, is that CLG, when they're able to just play their game, they look really strong. And I think this is important for CLG to internalize in their fans. Hurriwind is the catalyst right now, and CLGaming as a team has had struggles. It's when you just look towards your mid laner and go, all right, dude, you're on fire. Just carry us until we get our mojo back. And Homiefe stepped up in that game number 3. He personally has been struggling, in my opinion. I think this game might have been what CLG needed to sort of return to prominence.
I think there's also something to be said, though, about the fact that all of these teams in North America can take sets of each other any given day of the week. I mean, we just saw Splyce topple Space Station earlier on, and now CLG, one of the NA teams that has been struggling here in the summer split, topple Splyce.
It makes it so much more exciting, so much more fun to watch and talk about, which we do every Monday at 10 a.m. Esports Weekly. Make sure to tune in. We have a ton of fun. Not just you get to see Taco be wrong about her predictions, but you also get to hang out with me and Finch while I beat the hell out of him in whatever they decide, whatever questions they decide to throw at us.
I had honestly just started to forget about all of that. I think I got one right so far this week. One set.
In your defense, although I will take every opportunity to make fun of you, in your defense, this has been a ridiculous week for wins. I mean, Splyce has turned up. Trifecta has turned up.
Mouse won.
Mouse won. What's going on? I don't know. What I do know is that Trifecta and Luminosity are coming up next. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with the SPL.